welcome to what we call the MCHQ. We built this facility just prior to the pandemic kicking in. We signed our lease at the end of 2019. We cut the ribbon in January of 2020. We had about 400 of our members use the place in January, about 500 used the place in February, and we shut the doors in March. And but we're back, right? We're back here in full. As you can see today, there's a lot of activity going on here. We got a few members in the space. We have one of our company's commercial technology using the executive video conference room right next door to this. Basically, what we built here is we work, so to speak, for our members. If you're a member of the Meadowlands Chamber, you can come here every day. Any day you want, use the place as part of your membership, use the facilities, the technology. We do rent this room out, but we wanted to create the next generation of what we think a business or service organization is and should deliver. Just like the great things that Vince and the Small Business Development Center in Bergen County does, we're thinking about the future. How would we attract the next generation of entrepreneur? What will we provide those entrepreneurs? What kinds of services? We here at the Meadowlands Chamber do not want to be your father or your mother's chamber anymore, right? We don't want to be perceived by a young entrepreneur as you got nothing for me. We're networking differently, we're learning differently, we're interacting differently. You got nothing for me. Well, we want to change that perception, bring them into a space, and it's basically every time people get together here, there's a collaboration going on. Some type of networking, some type of collaboration, some type of energy. And that's what we look to do here. So it's my pleasure to host Todd, who's a real pro at all the things he does. Todd, terrific program today. Vince, anytime the SBDC needs to have a place to call a home for a session, you know you can count on us to do that. And I welcome all of you. Anybody needs a place to hang a hat for a day and you're down here and you want to learn some more about us, come and hang your hat, work in our space, and I'd be happy to talk to you some more. So have a good rest of your program, and thanks for allowing me a few minutes to say hello. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. I do consider myself one of the old guys, but that's okay. All right. Thank you. It's all right. We're going to double dip. We're going to welcome Vincent back up. If you would, give Vincent a round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. The applause goes to you. And thank you, Jim, for hosting this event today. Today is a very special day for the SBDC. We are part of a national network. We're accredited by America's SBDC. Our lead center is Rutgers Business School. We have a new CEO, Kelly Brosna. They've done some innovative things there as well, such as creating an organization called the Capital Team. We do a lot of the scope of work of SBDC spans a lot of different specialties. The Bergen County SBDC is hosted at Ramapo College of New Jersey. That's an AACSB accredited business school in Mahwah and part of the Anisfield School of Business. So I stand here this afternoon reflecting on what I said this morning about adding value to small business. In line with what the Meadowlands Chamber wants to do is that we are all here adding value to each other and to this event. Now, last year, the SBDC did, by working with clients, $12.5 million in financing. And that is loans, capital infusion, and other metrics. And that happened because of reaching out to one person to help us refine those efforts. And that is your presenter, Todd Smith. So please give Todd a round of applause for a second. Okay. So, but with the help of our sponsors, we can continue this mission. RBAC, thank you very much. Fulton Bank, Columbia Bank, Unity Bank, Harvest Small Business Loans, and Tom Olson, which is Lobster Life System, our Success Award winner in the past and a supporter of SBDC efforts since we've met. And thank you very much, everyone. So we are looking to partner, create further relationships, and the last point I'll make is that in terms of innovation with an educational institution, a lot of organizations across the country talk about how that could happen. We created something here called the Economic Recovery Task Force. You can read about it in NJ Biz and in various other publications. And what that has done is leveraged education with private and public sector and the SBDC. And we work with businesses utilizing students on those teams, led by Ryan Greff is my lead first intern. Jacob was here earlier. But that couldn't be successful without the consultants that work with them. And again, my most successful one is Todd Smith, and thank you very much, Todd. So with that, I think I've expired my time.
Welcome, everyone. We are Debt Equity Grants, how to intelligently fund your business. I think we need to tell a few more stories. And I think we need a little brief history. So we're going to make a couple stops in a few different centuries along route. We're going to stop in the late 1980s. I grew up in New Jersey, so I want to set this up. And my people skills were a little rougher 30 years ago than they are now, okay? I was in the middle of studying karate, and it was lead, follow, get out of the way or you're getting mowed over. That was my mantra. So I'm having trying to do a small development project, and like all 30-something developers, or try to be, would be, think they are, and they're not developers, we're all short on money. So I'm having a verbal, the lenders know the story. So I'm having a kind of a verbal tirade to myself. I had not mastered frustration yet. Who walks in but my accountant? My accountant is my father's peer. I grew up with his children. I grew up 4 houses down, and he's also from New Jersey. So I'm going to give you the G-rated version of the conversation and fill in the blanks. He turns around and says, Todd, if even Christopher Columbus had to look for money, get on with it or get over it. Fill in the blanks. Okay? That was the point of the story. It is not a direct quote. Fast forward 2008. 2008, the economy collapses. I get laid off. It was the last non-self-employed job I ever had. I decide to open Royce Joseph Capital. Okay. Somewhere, that quote never left me. I decided to go research how Christopher Columbus actually funded his trips. And I'm not talking about Wikipedia research. I'm not talking about just Google. No, I went to the library. I read everything I could. This is how the Cliff Note version, if anyone still knows what Cliff Notes are, some of us do. This is the shortened version of what I read. Took Christopher Columbus 2 years to find money. Christopher Columbus went north, his brother went south. 2 years. Think about that for a minute. Some loans, it takes 6 to 12 months to push through. And we have computers and electronics. 2 years to go look for money. He went north rather. He's up in Spain. And he's not faring well. He has a friend who has a friend with the Queen's bishop. I'm telling you, the person I read this from read all the documents in Old Spanish. Okay? I mean, the guy won a Pulitzer Prize. The bishop, these two friends convinced the bishop to convince the Queen for one more audience. 1492, it was networking. In 2022, networking still works. Think about that. So the Queen gives them an audience. The Moors' War had just ended. I'm not a Moors' War expert. It had something about I believe, the Muslims and the Christians fighting in Spain. I'm not an expert on the Moors' War. The war had just ended, so she had extra money. Remember the peace dividend we all had after the wall fell down? History does repeat itself. So she decided to invest into Christopher Columbus. He had 60 days to leave. He couldn't leave in 61. He had to leave by 60 days. do all the term sheets for these lenders. Do we all have dates on our term sheets? Use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. Even in 1492, it was use it or lose it. He got to the port, he couldn't stock the port. He had no credit. The Queen had a guaranteed payment to the vendors so he could stock his ship. People still co-sign loans today, John? People still co-sign loans today. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria did not match because they were the only 3 ships available at the port. She furnished the equity. She made sure the debt by co-signing the loan. Christopher Columbus made 4 trips, and subsequent trips, the Catholic Church supported it to deem the area as Christian or Catholic because the Reformation was just taking hold. How powerful are grants? The Catholic Church is still pretty powerful down in Central Latin and South America. Think about that for a minute. So nothing has changed and everything has changed. And I spent a long time researching this, and I'm not done yet. I want to know how they communicated, because it sure wasn't via Google. I'll tell you that right here and now. Grants. We're going to reverse the order. I know it's debt equity grants. We're going to start with grants. Grants are a very powerful tool to fund your business. Up until the pandemic, grants predominantly went to not-for-profits, research, say to a pharmaceutical company or a Department of Defense contractor for research. Grants predominantly fit into a category where the free market just can't support. It's very difficult for the free market to support homelessness or poverty because the people you serve, you know, they're broke. I mean, and there's no other way to put it. So they don't have the funds. So the not-for-profit world fills in the blank. Now, where this changed is the pandemic. The pandemic is really the first time I remember that amount of money in grant forms going to private industry. And I'm sure it's going to reverse again. So basically, this is a grant. A grant is the furnishing of funds by a grantor or a grant maker to an entity to provide a task. People think grants are free. Grants are free, maybe. Every grant gets audited. Every grant gets reports. Every single grant has to be accounted for. So is it free? You have to do your job. Plain and simple. I sit on the board of directors of a very large not-for-profit. When we obtain a grant, the grant writer, the finance person, the head of finance, I forget his title at the moment, and compliance work diligently from the time that grant is applied for and to make sure that everything we are supposed to do is done. So grants are not free. They come with a load of responsibilities. And those grants, those reports may be done monthly, they may be done quarterly, twice a year, or once a year. Though if that money is not spent correctly, you've got to pony the money back up. And it's a big deal when it's not spent correctly. Now, when I say it's predominantly for not-for-profits, there are a couple grant programs I'm just going to mention now as we go through it. I do not know if Bergen County has this program right now. I know Morris County does. Morris County is providing $5,000 to $15,000 grants to small businesses in support of some of to assist them from the pandemic. Is Bergen County doing that? I have no idea. I live in Morris County, so I'm pretty up on that. And the other big grant right now being provided by government to private industry is by the USDA. They are currently looking for loans to support food processing. I've sat in on some of those. It's a little bit more complicated than that. You just can't be a food processor. They actually want the grant to go to businesses who already have funding in place because they want to relieve the funding and then supplement it with the grant. That's pretty much my understanding how it works. I could be off base a little bit, but I'm probably pretty close because they don't want any projects that are not ready to go. It fulfills the matrix of the government. There are 4 types of grants. Competitive funding. That speaks for itself. There's a bucket of money. The federal government, let's just say DOT, the Department of Transportation, we're going to put $50 billion into this. All you towns across the country, you can go compete for the money. The best one wins. That's basically it. Okay? That is pretty much competitive grants. It's a sport. Formula grants. This, again, predominantly from the federal government. It supports a certain a need within a community. Let's just say you have 50,000 people who are senior citizens and can't afford food. You'd get your proportion from the federal government of 50,000. Say Dana's town's got 25, Dana would get 25, and that's how those formulas and those funds are dispersed. That's real simple, too. Continuation renewal grants, people, not-for-profits love these. Once you get on the program, once you get into the program, they just call you up and ask you if you want the money again. And the not-for-profits love that. Once they're in the program, it's really just a matter of, hey, yeah, we're good. Okay, send us money. I don't know anyone that will not accept money unless they've eliminated the program, but these are pretty simple as two. The pass-through grants are kind of interesting. Pass-through grants kind of come in 2 parts. As it says, the money usually starts at the federal government. It doesn't have to, and works its way down through the communities. Also, the people who benefited from the grant may never receive the money. For example, pass-through grants right now are big, or they've just been let out, for the eviction challenge that everyone anticipates now that the eviction moratorium is over. Can you see? Am I in your way?
No, I got it.
Okay. The eviction moratorium is now over because of the pandemic. So what they've done is the money is filtered through certain levels of government. It ends up with a not-for-profit. They've hired people. I'm getting ready to get evicted. They work out with me with some money. They give it to the landlord. I never really touched the money. And that's kind of a form of a pass-through grant. The people at the end receive the benefit without ever really touching the money. And it filters itself through the system. On a personal note, I think there's a lot of bureaucracy sometimes with these and kind of get eaten up in the middle and doesn't really get to the people that where they should go. Those are the 4 major types of grants. There are 2 types of grant applications. What we call a rolling grant application and an RFP, request for proposal. A rolling application is like what's going on in Morris County right now. They're still taking applications. When that bucket of money's done, they're done with applications. But Morris County, the county of Morris, has set aside a lot of money. I was just at a seminar or a luncheon for the Morris County Chamber last week, and I know a couple of the commissioners over there. They still have money, and they're encouraging anyone from Morris County to apply for the money. Let them determine if you can't get it or don't get it. So there is still money available. Because of the pandemic, it is going to, my gut, it's going to end. Sooner or later, it's like sooner or later they get you out of rehab, okay? I mean, you just can't, work on a bad knee forever. Sooner or later, like you're out of here, okay? And I think that's the way it's going to be. So rolling grants. When that bucket of money's up, it's all over. It's done. Requests for a proposal. This goes back to the competitive grants. Requests for proposals are coming out all the time with government entities. We're going to get to in a minute where else you find grants. You have to fill out the application. This is where the grant writer comes into play. And also, remember where I said you have to be able to effectively communicate? Grant writers are great at the written word. Because there's something that I forgot to bring out earlier when I was talking about communication, about playing to the audience. Once you know what they're looking for, you can tell your story 1,000 different ways and it'll still be true. If you had an incident at work one day, bad or good, doesn't matter, let's hope it's good, and you're going out with your old college and high school friends, the next day you're going to HR, are you telling the same story to your friends the way you're telling it to HR? Using the same verbiage. It's the same story. It's just you're using a different verbiage. Grant writers are pros at this. I know some great grant writers, and they submit the RFPs on behalf of whatever entity they use. Rolling grants, I know they're getting back to the one in Morris County. From what I understand, it's pretty simple. It wasn't something I participated in or have given much guidance on. Where do you get grant information? This is where you get grant information. The United States grants.gov. Once you're into it, you just have to use a traditional drop-down filtering system. For example, the not-for-profit that I'm a part of, our grant writer is constant. We serve those who suffer from mental illness. We provide housing and help for veterans. Our vets in May. I'll send you the information. John has attended some of the events that we have had in support of our veterans programs. They'll drop down veterans. It'll come up with all the government agencies within the federal government that's doing anything with a veteran. It could be housing. Sometimes it's studies. Sometimes it's research. It's food. It's medicine. It's everything. That's where you go. The Foundation Center, which is what we're going to dig into a little deeper. New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, NJ.gov. That's where you'll find your state grants. There's an article called, not an article, an online digest called Philanthropy News Digest. You can find out information there. Council of Grant Makers and NJ Biz. Someone asked me when they were viewing the slides, why NJ Biz? A lot of your local entities, your government agencies will do a press release that they're letting out grant money, and they're usually in NJ Biz. Those are your major sources for grants. Obviously, the U.S. government, grants.gov is for free. The NJ Department of Community Affairs, NJ.gov, is for free. The other ones cost money. Now, the one that is used by most not-for-profits is the Foundation Directory Online. And this is why people pay for it. 90% of U.S. foundations don't have websites. I have no interest in this. This is for educational purposes. I am going to bring up a couple different entities. They're used for educational purposes. I have no vested interest in this. So this is basically what comes up. Your Foundation Directory Online. Now, if anyone knows anything about not-for-profits, remember when I said this morning to study your competition? This is where it comes into play for not-for-profits. All not-for-profits, there are hyperlinks to this site to another site. All not-for-profits have to submit what's called a 990. A 990 is the tax return for a not-for-profit. Now, a really good grant writer knows their competition. Or also not-for-profits know each other's competition. And a grant writer who's working for one knows the competition of the other. So let's say Fernando's housing the homeless and I'm housing the homeless. And Tommy Hilkin in the back is supplying the money. You good with that, Tommy? I want Tommy's money. Okay, so I'm going to go into your website, and I'm going to go into your portal, so to speak, and I'm going to look at your 990, and I'm going to see who's funding you to see if I can get access to some of that money. That's what I mean about studying your competition. Because in the not-for-profit world, money, they compete for money. So a good grant writer has done that, and then you put that back into the formula for success we did. So the grant writer, I want that money. Well, the next step may be, I just want to study it for the next round. I just want to see how they audit it or what their approval process is. So it may be a year at the next step. And then they execute and apply for the grant. So this is how the seminar this morning ties into this. And then what they do is once they see how that goes, they study then Fernando's not-for-profit. They take a look at what I can do better. I write my grant application, not disparaging him. I write my grant application in a manner to highlight what I do without mentioning him better than him. And my friends, that's how the grant world works. There's only so much money and there's a lot of need. Okay. And you will also go in, like this is, again, I have nothing to do with Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. I just pulled it up. It will tell you what they're doing in higher education, public health, health. If you take a look, they've given out over $2 billion over 5 years. They'll give you the size of the grant, and they'll give you the location. So if grants are a means that you believe that you can fund your business or your, now, like I said, this costs. So if you're interested in grants, that's what it's going to cost. Just so you know, this is not a free service. What is equity financing? My friends, you have a partner. That's as simple as it gets. It's the type and level of partner that you will have with you. Is it your father? Is it your mother? Is it your brother? Is it your friend? Or is it someone else? And there's several different types of equity financing. There they all are. There's probably others. There's private placement. That is one that I didn't put in here. So we're going to focus in on some of them and review others. Friends and family speaks for itself. Okay, we all have friends. We all have family. Some may invest with you, you know, say, hey, look, I want to start a pizzeria. Well, here's the money to do it. At some point, they may be a working partner. It speaks for itself. Your friends, all of friends and family is a great place to start. Partnerships, same thing. It's just a different form of equity financing. The law firm that's sponsored here today that couldn't make it because of another event, they're a partnership. 3 lawyers got together. They pooled their money. They opened a law firm in Newark the week before the pandemic hit. So they've been pretty successful. The Small Business Investment Company down here, the small business, they are SBICs. They are connected to the SBA in some way, shape, or form. They are private businesses. I think the SBICs are great concepts. My research shows me there's only 3 in New Jersey and none of them are taking any new businesses. They supply a combination of equity and debt. I think it's a great concept. I know some people that are kicking some tires with them, whether they would open one or not. I do not know what's involved with it. I just think they're a brilliant way to go. And there should be a lot more of them. Again, as my research shows, there's only 3 in New Jersey. If I'm wrong, please don't hesitate to email me. None of them are taking new projects. They use private funds for the equity and SBA guaranteed funding to invest in the small businesses. We're going to talk more about SBA lending at the end. The SBA does not directly invest in companies, and to the best of my knowledge, lenders, the only one they directly lend is the EIDL loan. Am I correct? There's no other SBA loan that I'm aware of directly from a bank, directly from the SBA. Excuse me? Yeah, I thought it's just so. Right. That's so. I think this is a great concept. If you're not in New Jersey, you may want to research your state. There may be an SBIC accepting projects. Again, it's equity plus debt. And this is where you locate them, the SBIC directory. Same concept as the funding source that we did, the foundation. Search all you want. This is a directory that I believe can be hyperlinked off the SBA up top, and you can research all you want. And again, everyone here is just a slide that popped up. They'll give you the interest. They'll give you the industry, rather, active since, investing status, contact phone number. And you can see, not likely investing, likely still investing, not likely investing, and New Jersey's all popped up, not likely investing. Crowdfunding. There's a lot of talk about crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, simply defined, is a lot of people coming up with little amounts of money to support your business. Now, there are a lot of people making a lot of money on crowdfunding because if you build it, they will not necessarily come. You have to create a marketing program in a compelling manner why someone is going to open up their wallet and give to me. Most of the programs that I have seen will cost you about $10,000. I saw one recently, a couple months back. It was $10,000 plus 5% of your company, plus a haircut on all the money that comes through their platform through crowdfunding. It may, I know people who have done well. I know people have done lousy. I'm not here to criticize or condemn, just provide the facts. But please take note of my bottom note: do your homework. Please do your homework. There are 4 types of crowdfunding. They're reward, donation, debt, and equity. And those are the 4 major crowdfunding sources for each one. And they pretty much are what they are. Rewards: Dana's going to send Todd Smith some money. I'm sending him a coffee cup with my name on it. Okay? That's basically it. Donation-based GoFundMe. There's a lot of money being raised for donations there. They do take a haircut. I know people that were going to do stuff with GoFundMe. They decided to do it internally. It was in a large company or a hospital. They said, you know something, we're going to spread the word internally, and they figured it out somehow. Lending club, people-to-people lending. There are some rules here. Again, if do your homework, it works for you, fine. I don't get involved in it. And I don't really think the SBDC, we haven't done any either. Equity net, equity-based, that speaks for itself. It's a lot of people donating, investing a little bit into your company. The internet is one of those things that's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing for all the information it has and the availability it has. It's a curse because of all the information and the availability it has. And you have to decide which side you want to be on. Angel funding. By the time you get to angel funding, you will have a proof of concept. You may even have some kind of, there's something there. I get calls all the time. Do you know someone that wants to invest $100,000, $50,000, $150,000? Yeah, I know people. But what is there? Well, I have an idea. I have nothing against people with ideas, and they should want to pursue their dream. This is early stage investment into companies by high net worth individuals or entities that they've created because they expect your business to blow it out. They're not doing this just because you're a nice person. Okay? You also have a partner. More than likely, they're going to ask for a seat on the board. By the time you get to angel funding, you have a structure in place with your business. You have to. And where do you find angel investors? Same place. Angel Capital Association. These are resources for you. There are hundreds of them on these resources. So if you think your business is ripe for angel investing, start here. Now, remember when I said this morning, you do your homework, you've got to do your research. You will see where that comes into play a little while as well. If you have a project in a certain vertical and you think it's going to move forward, you should be doing your homework on angel investors right from the start. Right from the start. to know exactly where you're going to be able to obtain money. It's another directory. They're there. It's a matter of which one fits you. Venture capital. Everyone hears about the Googles, the who else? The Amazons. Yes, they all started with venture capital. And again, once you get to this level, you have a real structure in place because they expect to take that company public. Because one of the fundamental outcomes of everything that you want to talk about, or everything you want to accomplish in business, rather, is what's your exit strategy. It's the same thing with lenders. How are they going to get paid back? Investors get paid back through what's called an exit strategy. When are they cashing out? That is the street version of that phrase. When do they get their money back? And how big is the return? They are nice people. Don't get me wrong. Everyone's like they're vultures. They're not vultures. I've reviewed projects for certain angel investors years ago. They're nice. They just want what they want, and they want to give you what they want. If I only do retail style products, I'm not looking at high tech. I don't have the knowledge. Also, if you get to this level, you want to make sure the angel and venture capital people can bring something to you as well. They should be able to bring knowledge, fill in a void that you don't have. Bring knowledge, a specific client, a chain of sales, something. And the guys, I mean that, you know, the people who are in these genres, they're smart. They will know how much can they of that company I can buy and still leave room for more investing. They will, how much can I buy, how much say can I have, still leaving room for the next person. And this is how you look for a venture capitalist. Same thing. This one is National Venture Capital Association members. You go in and find out all the information's here. It takes a lot of research. I chose a company because they were the first one, ABS Capital, just because they were the first one. There's their website, but this is more important than their website. Who else have they funded? Who else have they funded? I don't know any of these 6 or 7 companies. Does my company match that profile? Or am I in that vertical? Because as you start closing in on venture capital, you want to be able to start attracting people, not being in a position to have to always begging people or calling people. You want to be a magnet to people. So if I'm in a business that is part like Alula, Professional Smart Security. So I'm in that marketplace. I'm starting to, whether it be LinkedIn, I'm starting to find areas where I can slowly start meeting people and attract the money. And this is where your networking comes in. Most of these websites put their investment committee on the website. And this goes back to networking. Now, what would happen if you went to a wedding and all of a sudden you just get chit-chatting with people you don't know, they're friends with or they're cousins with or something of Mike Avon. This is what goes back to again this morning when I talked about the attitude. The attitude is to be able to be a magnet to people. And if you're a magnet to people, a lot of stuff opens up. A tremendous amount of... So these seminars, even though they have a different flair and a different flavor, they're not really mutually exclusive. Your attitude will go a long way to attracting money. Because you're not only selling your product or having people invest in your product, they are investing in you. Debt. This is one there. With all the bankers here, I've got to make sure I tell the truth. Debt. You know, I explain to people, You're either buying, it depends upon your perspective. The lenders are either renting you money or selling you money. They want their money back with a spread. That's basically it. They're lending you money. The interest charge is the lender's compensation for the use of the money. The payments, are most of the time, ones I deal with are periodic. They don't want your collateral. They don't want to enforce the personal guarantees. They make money by selling you or renting you money. The landlord makes money by selling or renting rather you the apartment. And the car guy gets paid by selling you a car. They don't want your collateral. They don't want to enforce a personal guarantee. Just make the payments. And if there's ever a challenge, call them. Now, I've kept most of these seminars pretty upbeat, and I don't think I've said too many bad things. These are your types of debt financing: family and friends, leases, purchase order, SBA loans, USDA loans, credit cards, factoring, mortgages. I'm going to say one lousy thing. You see this one here, merchant cash advance? If you have one of these or you know someone that has one of these, call the SBDC and see if we can get you out of it. These are technically not loans. They are advances against credit card, and it's not even credit card receipts. It's receipts in general. They pull the money out of your account every day, Monday through Friday. So you're going to want to get out of these. For those who are not familiar with these, it's not called an interest rate, it's called a fee. You can call it what you want. It could be 80, 90, 120% for less than a year. I've seen them at 80% for 6 months. Okay? There's a place for all the other ones. There is no place for this, in my opinion. If you're in a situation where you need one of those, then somewhere along the line you should get some business consulting, something, because you can get on a treadmill and never get out of this because you personally guarantee these. You can't get away without personally guaranteed a merchant cash advance. So, other than that, everything else has a place. Same thing, families and friends, leases. Now, leases. Leases are a form of credit. Someone else owns the equipment. You pay them. You're still paying interest because the person that's leasing it to you is still making money, and you still have to go through a credit check. Like I said, you want to stay away from your cash advance, merchant cash advance. It's just dangerous financing. Credit cards, we've all gone through credit cards. We've all used them. You can fund your business that way, and I don't mean fund it. It could be an accommodating resource to pay certain things as you're up and running. We all use them. Equipment leases, the renting of equipment in lieu of ownership. The leasing company holds title. The two that I really like that I think are underused are purchase order financing and factoring. Factoring is a great form, and I've got a couple models coming up on that one. Purchase order financing works like this, as an example. I've got a contract with the county of Bergen for $500,000 worth of computers. Now, we all know Bergen County is not going to provide a down payment. The government agencies typically don't do that. The computers are going to cost me $250. I'm going to put them in a room, program them the way they want them, ship them out. The purchase order finance company will provide you the financing for the computer, the raw material purchase. I think it's underutilized. You have to be smart when you use these. There's a parallel program called mobilization funding for contractors. So if you're starting a big government project, instead of purchase order financing, it's called mobilization funding. And they will fund that first 60, 90 days up to your first check. Factoring is the purchasing of a company's receivable. Remember when I went back to the Christopher Columbus story? This is really the only gray area. It's really not an equity investment. It's really not a debt. But this is the only one that I'm going to share with you a little bit on why I believe it's predominantly debt. Term loans, which we're all familiar with at SBA. Loans a term loan. Real estate mortgage. If you've ever bought a house, a commercial real estate mortgage is just one for a building. I really like the USDA loans and the SBA loans. I think the SBA loans are one of the best products on the market today. By far one of the best products. Where else can you buy a building for 10% down? Where else? It's a lot of work to getting the loan done, but I just think it's worth the effort. Factoring, as I talked about factoring, this is something here that I believe for the right company, it's a really viable form of finance. This is how it's really done. I bill John Willis $100,000. The factoring company is going, I'm going to factor his receivable. So I sell it to Dana. Dana's going to give me $75,000. They're going to hold back $25,000 because that's a little bit of a security. The factoring company receives John's 25 or 100. The balance less the factoring fee is $25,000. The factoring fee is $3,000. So I end up with $97,000 in the end. The question you have to ask when you do this is the expedited cash flow going to make me $3,000? That's the question. Is moving the cash flow through the system faster and faster and faster and faster worth $3,000? If the answer is no, it's not for you. If the answer is yes, then it is for you. Profit margins are important. If your profit margin cannot support a factor is not going to do it. See, people think underwriting, sometimes, believe it or not, when an underwriter at a bank says no, sometimes it's in your best interest because you're missing a piece. You really are missing a piece, and you may not know it at the time, but they protected you because it's not going to be a good thing. So if it works for you, great. If your profit margin's only $3,000, this is not going to work. Now, where this ties into a purchase order finance is, as we're going back to the scenario, the purchase order person frequently is taken out by a factoring company. So someone loaned me the money to buy the computers. I do my thing. I ship them to Bergen County. I invoice Bergen County. The factoring company pays me and then pays the purchase order company off. I think they're great. I think they're great lending platforms. Again, as long as you understand them and the progress and the product or the process fits you. This is not one size or one shoe fits all. That's why there's a host of them. SBA loans. There they are, my friends, all of them. Now, I don't know about some of the lenders here. I've only done the 504s, the 7A, and the microloans. I have not gotten involved in some of these other loans. A lot of them parallel themselves. But there they are. I'm not done yet. There's the rest of them. Okay, so there are a lot of loans out here available. I just think these are great loans. Now, the thing with the SBA loan, which everyone gets annoyed at, and I'm going to defend the banks right now, my friends, all right? There's a SBA fee, okay? I tell my clients it's an insurance policy, okay? It's an insurance policy. What do you mean? The lender's not going to give you money if the loan's not insured. So it means I don't have to pay it back. No, it means the lender's protected. We don't want a destabilized lending environment. Without the SBA fee and the lending fee, you couldn't get into the building at 10%, 15, 20% down. You'd need 25, 30, 35, and maybe more sometimes. The complaint I get is it's a lot of paperwork. Yes, it is a lot of paperwork. It is a tremendous amount of paperwork. And I'm going to tell you what I tell my clients. The process is temporary. The benefits of the loan are permanent. And once again, the decision is yours. If you want the permanency of the benefit, unfortunately, it is somewhat problematic at times. The federal government is guaranteeing these loans. That's you paying for the insurance policy. And as with all insurance, you really don't want to use it. Who wants to use their life insurance, their car insurance, their health insurance, their fire insurance? So that's kind of the skinny on the SBA loans. It is worth the aggravation for those who are contemplating them. I've pulled two off. This is a really simplistic version. There are 9 nuances that go in here. This is what's called an SBA 7A loan. It will include real estate, machinery, buyout of businesses. You can go back to the chart to go into details. This is basically how it works. The project cost is $1 million. The client puts in $100,000. The loan is $900,000. Obviously, there are fees and stuff that go in, but we're just doing simple math. And the loan is guaranteed at 75%. Many, if not all, of these loans are sold to institutions. There was a firm I knew down in Atlanta years ago that ran a fund. They were funded by pension funds, and they were buying a lot of these up. This is a lot of the SBA loans are sold and included in portfolios of pension funds because they are considered very secure. An SBA 504 loan, the 7A, will go to $5 million. Theoretically, the 504 goes to $10 million. There are nuances. Again, this is a simplistic version. The project cost is $10 million. The cash injection's $1 million. Our participating lender, which is not guaranteed, is going to loan you $5 million. And then a company like RBAC is going to come in and provide the $4 million. And that is pretty much, this is a great loan. I did a lot of hotel financing for clients years ago with this product. It's a great product. As with all of these, do your homework. Lenders. Not all SBA lenders are the same. An SBA lender on one bank may only want to do a loan $1 million and higher, or they may not want to do hotels. The lenders operate under the umbrella, though they can make changes to it to some extent. A lot of it's loan size, and much of it is what genre of business they're willing to lend to. Well, thank you very much. Everyone, thanks for Thank you, Todd. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I know most of you. If I don't know you, just please give me a card and let me know how I can help you. And thanks for coming. Everyone have a safe trip home, and we'll see you again sometime.